"You're not on the list," my brother said, about his own wedding, in the house I bought him. That sentence cost him $770,000. It cost my father a daughter. And it cost me the last shred of hope that my family would ever see me as one of them. But what they didn't know, what nobody at that 200-guest reception knew, was that the roof over their heads still had my name on it, and I had just signed it away to someone else. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I'd love to know where you're watching from. My name is Sierra, I'm 31, and this is the story of how I lost a family and found myself. Now let me take you back 17 years, to the day my mother died, and everything changed. My mother died on a Tuesday in October. I was 14. She had been sick for 2 years. Ovarian cancer. And by the end, she weighed less than I did. But she never stopped being the strongest person in the room. My mother was the only one who treated us the same. Dalton got a new bike. I got a new bike. He got help with homework. I got help with homework. She didn't believe in favorites. She believed in fairness. The funeral was small. Gray sky. Wet grass. I remember the smell of lilies and mud. My father stood at the casket with his arm around Dalton. My brother was 16, already taller than Dad. Gerald, that's my father, pulled Dalton close and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "You're the man of the house now, son." I stood 3 feet away. Nobody said anything to me, except one person. Patricia Callahan. Patty. My mother's best friend since college. She found me standing alone by the back pew after everyone filed out. She crouched down, took my hands, and looked me straight in the eyes. "I promised your mother I'd always have your back," she said. "Remember that." I nodded. I didn't understand what she meant. Not really. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't learn for years, was that my mother, in her final weeks, had asked Patty to become my legal godmother. She'd signed paperwork. Formal, binding, the whole thing. At the time, it seemed like a formality, a sentimental gesture from a dying woman. It wasn't. My mother knew something I didn't. She knew what my father would become without her there to balance him. And she was right about every single thing she feared. After the funeral, our house split into 2 worlds. Dalton's world had everything. A car on his 16th birthday. A used Mustang, but still. A college fund that Dad started topping up every month. Golf lessons at the club where Gerald's friends played. Weekend trips to look at campuses. A bedroom that got repainted twice. My world had leftovers. I asked Dad for money for textbooks my sophomore year. He didn't even look up from the TV. "Ask your brother," he said. I already gave him the budget. The budget. Like there was one pool of money and Dalton got to it first. I started working at a coffee shop the week I turned 16. 4:30 a.m. shifts before school. I bought my own notebooks, my own calculator, my own winter coat when the zipper on my old one broke and nobody noticed. One night, I needed to borrow Dalton's car. I had a scholarship interview the next morning, the only shot I had at affording college. The bus didn't run early enough. I knocked on his door. "Can I borrow the car tomorrow? Just for 2 hours." He didn't look up from his phone. "I need it. Take the bus." "The bus doesn't run at 6 a.m., Dalton." "Not my problem." I walked 2.5 miles in the dark to make that interview. I got the scholarship. Here's the thing that burned the most. I found out later, years later, when Patty helped me pull old bank records, that my mother had set up a college fund for me too, equal to Dalton's. After she died, Gerald quietly transferred every dollar into Dalton's account. Every single dollar. He didn't even wait a full year. I graduated high school on a Saturday in June. Summa cum laude. National Honor Society. A full-ride scholarship to state. Gerald took Dalton to a basketball game that afternoon. I walked across the stage alone. Almost alone. When I scanned the bleachers, rows and rows of families holding flowers and balloons, I found one face. Patty. 3rd row, left side. She was clapping so hard her whole body shook. She had a single sunflower in her lap. That night, I packed 2 suitcases. Gerald was in the living room watching Sports Center. I walked past him with my bags and he glanced up. "You leaving?" "Yes." "Lock the door on your way out." That was it. No hug, no good luck. No, "Call me when you get there." Just lock the door. I rented a room above a laundromat in a college town 40 minutes away. I worked 2 jobs, coffee shop mornings, restaurant nights. I studied in between. I slept 4 hours on good nights. Patty offered to help me financially. She sat me down at her kitchen table with a checkbook and said, "Your mother left you something with me. Let me use it." I said no. "I need to do this myself, Patty. If I take your money, I'll never know if I can stand on my own." She put the checkbook away. She didn't argue. She just nodded and said, "You sound just like your mother." I got my real estate license at 22, my first sale at 23, my first 6-figure year at 26. 10 years after I locked that door behind me, I stood in front of a house worth $770,000, and I signed my name on the deed. But not for me. The call came on a Wednesday. I hadn't heard from Gerald in almost 3 years. No birthday calls, no Thanksgiving invites, no, "How are you?" Nothing. Then, out of nowhere, "Sierra, it's your father." He didn't ask how I was. He didn't ask about my job, my health, my life. He got straight to the point. "Your brother needs a place. He's getting serious with a girl from a good family. He can't be renting some apartment. Help him out." Not, "Would you consider?" Not, "If you're able." Just, "Help him out." Like I was the family handyman and a faucet was leaking. I was 29. I had closed over 40 deals that year. I had savings. I had a reputation. I had built every single piece of my life with no help from the man on the other end of the phone. And still, some part of me thought, maybe this time, maybe if I do this, they'll see me. Maybe if I give enough, I'll finally be enough. So I bought the house. A 4-bedroom colonial in a nice suburb, new roof, big yard, $770,000. I kept the deed in my name. That was the one thing I did right, and it wasn't even my idea. Patty sat across from me the day I told her. She didn't yell. She set her coffee cup down slowly and said, "You're buying his love, Sierra. It doesn't work that way." "I know," I said. "Do you? Just promise me you'll keep a copy of the deed." She took the papers. She looked at me the way you look at someone walking toward a cliff who won't stop. "Keep your name on that deed, Sierra. Promise me." I promised. Dalton moved in a week later. He never once asked whose name was on the paperwork. It started small. So small I almost didn't notice. Thanksgiving, the first year after Dalton moved in. I called to ask what time dinner was. He said, "Oh, Nicole's family is coming this year. We don't really have enough chairs. Maybe next time?" Next time. Christmas. "We're heading to the Ashfords this year. Their place is bigger. You know how it is." Gerald's birthday in February. "It's just a small dinner. Didn't want to make a big deal." Every time, a reason. Every reason, just believable enough that I could swallow it if I didn't chew. I chewed. Dalton was dating Nicole Ashford. Her family had money, real money, country club, charity galas, last name on a hospital wing. Nicole was sweet, from what little I heard. Dalton was performing the role of his life, the devoted son from a small, close-knit family. The kind of man a girl like Nicole could bring home to her mother. And I didn't fit that story. He started editing me out. Slowly, carefully, like someone airbrushing an old photo. I found out how far he'd gone on a December night, scrolling through Nicole's Instagram. There it was. A photo of Dalton, Gerald, Nicole, and her parents, standing around the dining table in my house. Christmas garland on the banister I'd picked out. Candles on the mantel I'd paid for. And the caption, "Family Christmas at our home. Just us. A small family. And that's all we need." Our home? Small family. I stared at that photo for 30 seconds. Then I screenshotted it and saved it to a folder I didn't have a name for yet. I didn't know why I was saving it. Something in my gut told me to. Something that sounded a lot like my mother's voice. The phone call that changed everything wasn't from Dalton. It wasn't from Gerald. It was from Rachel Park, a colleague at my brokerage. We'd closed a dozen deals together. She knew her stuff. And she knew how to listen. "Sierra, this is awkward," she said one afternoon. "But does your brother live in that colonial on Maple?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because someone fitting his description came into a consultation with Jim Bowden's firm last week, asking about adverse possession." My stomach dropped. Adverse possession. It's a legal concept. If someone lives in a property long enough, openly and continuously, without the actual owner objecting, they can eventually file a claim to ownership. It takes years. It varies by state. But Dalton was asking. He was looking for a way to take my house from me, legally. I called Patty that night. She confirmed what I already feared. "If he files the right paperwork and you don't challenge it, in a few years he could have a case," she said. "It's a stretch. But the fact that he's asking, that tells you everything." It did. I wasn't just losing a house. I was losing the fiction I'd built. That somewhere underneath the silence and the excuses, my family still wanted me. That the house was a bridge, not a transaction. That blood meant something. But I didn't act. Not yet. There was one more test. The wedding. Dalton and Nicole had gotten engaged in January. The wedding was set for June. 200 guests. I told myself, if he invites me, there's still hope. If he includes me in the biggest day of his life, then maybe. I was wrong about all of it. The invitations went out in March. 200 of them. Not one had my name on it. I found out from Karen Webb, my oldest friend. We'd known each other since middle school. She was one of the few people who knew both sides of my family's story, and she never let me pretend it was fine when it wasn't. She called on a Thursday afternoon, cheerful, clueless. "Hey, I got the invite. So are you doing a speech or anything? Maid of honor?" The silence lasted 6 seconds. She figured it out before I said a word. "Sierra, you got an invite, right?" "No." "You're kidding." "I'm not." She texted me a photo of the invitation. Thick cream cardstock, gold embossing. Dalton Andrew Mercer and Nicole Elizabeth Ashford. June 15th, 200 guests. Reception to follow at the couple's home. The couple's home. My house. I called Dalton. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. I texted, "Dalton, I saw the invite. Am I coming?" 3 hours. 3 hours of staring at my phone like it owed me something. Then the reply. "Sierra, we talked about this. The guest list is tight. Nicole's family takes priority. Don't make this about you. We talked about this. We never talked about this. We never talked about anything because he stopped answering my calls 2 years ago." I typed back the only thing that mattered. "The wedding is at my house, Dalton." The read receipt popped up immediately. Then, "It's been my house for 2 years. Everyone knows that." I read that sentence 3 times. Each time, a different part of me broke. The first read broke the sister. The second broke the peacemaker. The third broke the last person in me who still believed giving was enough. I set the phone down, and I started thinking clearly for the first time in years. I called Gerald the next morning. He picked up on the second ring, which told me he'd been expecting it. "Dad, did you know I'm not invited?" "Your brother's wedding. His rules." "It's my house, Dad. You gave it to him. That's done." "I didn't give it. I let him live there." "Same thing." "It's not the same thing." A pause. I could hear the TV in the background. He hadn't even muted it. "Sierra, don't start. You always do this." "Do what, Dad?" "Make everything a drama. Just let your brother be happy for once." For once. As if Dalton had ever been denied a single thing in his life. As if happiness was a pie and there was only one slice and it had Dalton's name on it. "What about me?" I said. The silence stretched long enough for me to hear the play-by-play of whatever game he was watching. Then, quietly, almost gently, which made it worse. "You'll be fine. You always are." He hung up. I sat on my kitchen floor for a long time after that, not crying, just sitting, holding the phone in my lap like a dead thing. "You'll be fine. You always are." He said it like it was a compliment. Like my ability to survive everything they threw at me was a feature, not a scar. Like the fact that I always landed on my feet meant it was okay to keep pushing me off the ledge. That sentence, 6 words, was the cruelest thing my father ever said to me. Not because it was angry, because it was calm, because he believed it, because in his mind it was permission. Permission to never show up for me again. And he never did. I did something I'm not proud of. I wrote Dalton a long message, not angry, not begging, just honest. I told him everything. Every holiday I missed, every call he didn't return, every time I made an excuse for him because the truth was too heavy. I told him about the college fund Dad took from me. I told him I bought that house because I thought it would bring us closer. I asked him one question. "Do you actually want me out of your life? Or have you just been too comfortable to notice I'm still here?" He read it. The little checkmark turned blue. He didn't reply. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. "Hi, Sierra, this is Nicole." My chest tightened. "Dalton told me you've been pressuring him about the wedding. I understand you feel left out, but this is our day. Please respect our wishes." Then, a second message. "We appreciate the house, but don't use it as leverage." I read that twice. Don't use it as leverage. Dalton hadn't just excluded me, he'd built a story. In his version, I was the difficult sister. The one who couldn't let go. The one who dangled money to control people. He'd flipped it. Turned me from the person who gave everything into the person who used everything, and Nicole believed him. Why wouldn't she? She'd never met me. She didn't even know I existed until I became a problem. I put my phone on the counter. I stared at the ceiling. I didn't cry. For the first time in my life, I didn't cry. Something shifted behind my ribs. Not anger, not sadness. Something colder, quieter. Something that felt like the lock clicking shut on a door I'd been holding open for 17 years. I opened my laptop. I looked up Russell Tate's phone number. Patty didn't say, "I told you so." I called her at 9 that night. I told her everything. The invitation, the texts, Gerald's 6 words, Nicole's message. I told her what Dalton had been telling people. I told her about the adverse possession inquiry. I said the thing I'd been afraid to say out loud. "I think I've been a fool, Patty." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "You weren't a fool. You were a daughter who loved her family. That's not weakness, Sierra. That's who your mother raised." I pressed my fist against my mouth to keep steady. "The deed," she said. "It's still in your name?" "Yes." "Good. That's the only thing that matters right now." The next morning, I sat across from Russell Tate in his downtown office. He was Patty's former colleague, mid-50s, reading glasses on a chain, the kind of lawyer who speaks like he's billing by the syllable but means everyone. He reviewed the documents for 20 minutes. Deed, property records, tax filings, all in my name. No lease agreement with Dalton. No rental contract. No written permission of any kind. Russell looked up. "Who's been paying the property taxes?" "I have, every year." "Mortgage?" "Paid in full at closing. It's mine, free and clear." He took off his glasses. "Ms. Mercer, your brother has no legal claim to this property. No lease, no contract, no equitable interest. Legally, he's a guest in your house, nothing more." A guest. Dalton had been living in a $700,000 home, throwing Christmas parties and planning his wedding there, telling everyone it was his. And legally, he was a guest. I asked Russell one question. "If I sell it, can he stop me?" "No." That word sat in the room like a stone dropped into still water. Karen called me 2 days later with something that knocked the wind out of me. "I need to tell you something," she said. I was at the engagement party last month, the one at the Ashfords Club. I hadn't been invited to that either, obviously. Dalton gave a toast. He thanked Gerald, called him my only family. And when Nicole's uncle asked if he had siblings, Karen paused. He said, "Just me, only child." I closed my eyes. "Sierra, are you there?" "I'm here." That night, I did something I hadn't done before. I went through everything. Nicole's social media, Dalton's, every photo, every tag, every comment from the past 2 years. Nicole's feed. Vacations with Dalton, dinners with Gerald, holidays at the house. Not a single photo of me, not one mention. Dalton's feed. He'd gone back and deleted, or cropped, every old family photo that included me. Birthday parties, Thanksgivings, even our mother's memorial service. In every image, I was simply gone, like I'd been cut out with scissors. Then I found the post that made my hands shake. Nicole, 6 months ago. A photo of Gerald at the dining table laughing, wine glass raised. The caption, "So grateful for Dalton's dad Gerald, the sweetest father-in-law. Just us, a small family, and that's all we need." But the post that shattered me was older. Dalton, responding to a comment under a photo of the house. Someone had written, "Beautiful place. How'd you swing it?" And Dalton replied, "Dad helped us out. Family takes care of family." Dad helped us out. He credited Gerald for my house, and Gerald let him. I screenshotted everything, saved it all, closed my laptop. He didn't just cut me out. He rewrote the story. And in his version, I never existed. I sat in my apartment for a long time that night. The lights were off. Just the glow of the street lamp through the window, and a framed photo of my mother on the shelf by the door. She was 31 in that photo, my age now, holding me as a baby, smiling like the world made sense. I thought about what she would say if she could see this. All of it. The house, the silence, the cropped photos, the lies. And I heard her voice. Not literally, but the way you hear someone you've loved so deeply that their words live inside your bones. "Don't let anyone tell you you're not worthy." I picked up the phone. I called Russell. "List the house." A pause. "You're sure?" "Once it's done, it's done." "I'm sure." It took 3 weeks. Russell found a buyer, a young family relocating from out of state. They loved the house. They offered full asking price, no contingencies. Clean deal. Closing date, June 14th. 1 day before the wedding. I signed the papers in Russell's office on a Tuesday afternoon. The house changed hands at 4:17 p.m. It was no longer mine, which meant it was no longer Dalton's to stand in. Russell prepared the notice to vacate. 30 days. Standard. Completely legal. I chose the delivery date, June 15th, the morning of the wedding. Patty sat with me that evening. She didn't say much. She just poured 2 glasses of wine and waited. "How do you want to do this?" she asked. "Quietly," I said. "I just want him to know the truth." I sat there for a long time after she left. I wasn't happy. I wasn't sad. I was hollow, like I'd cut away a part of my body that had been dead for years but I'd been too afraid to let go of. If you've ever had to choose between loyalty and self-respect, you know exactly what that feels like. Would you have done the same thing? I'd love to hear your answer in the comments. June 15th. A Saturday. 82 degrees. Clear sky. I drove to the neighborhood at 6:30 in the evening. Not to the house, to the end of the block, where I could see the driveway from a distance. I parked under an oak tree and turned off the engine. The house looked beautiful. I'll give them that. White lights strung along the fence, lanterns lining the walkway, cars packed the street. BMWs, a couple of Mercedes, a black Escalade I figured belonged to Margaret Ashford. Through the open windows I could hear jazz, laughter, glasses clinking. 200 people, celebrating in a house they thought belonged to the groom. My phone rang. "Karen." "I'm inside," she whispered. "Sierra, it's gorgeous. The flowers, the food? There's a string quartet on the patio." "How is he?" Glowing. He's in a gray suit. Nicole looks stunning. They just did the first dance. A pause. Sierra, I'm so sorry you're not here. It's okay, I said. Which was a lie. But some lies are just kindness you give yourself. Then Karen said the thing that sealed it. He just gave his speech. Thanked Gerald for, I'm quoting, giving me everything, including this beautiful home. Gerald stood up and took a bow. People clapped. I gripped the steering wheel. And Sierra, he said he wishes his mom could be here. He said, she's the only one missing tonight. The only one missing. I was 200 yards away, sitting in a parked car on a public street, listening to my brother erase me in real time from a stage built inside a house I paid for. And according to him, the only empty chair at that wedding belonged to a woman who died 17 years ago. I wasn't missing. I was removed. And now it was time to remove myself from the equation entirely. I called Russell at 8:41 p.m. Send it. You're certain? Yes. Russell sent two things simultaneously. First, the formal notice to vacate, delivered to the property address via courier service with signature confirmation. 30 days, standard, legal. Second, one email. To Dalton, Gerald, and Nicole. All three. One message. I had written it the night before, revised it 4 times. Every version got shorter. The final draft was 6 lines. The property at 114 Maplecrest Drive has been sold. The transaction closed on June 14th. You have 30 days to vacate. Enclosed are 1. A copy of the deed in my name. 2. The signed sale agreement. And 3. The formal notice to vacate. I wish you both a happy marriage. Sierra. No exclamation marks. No accusations. No emotion. Just facts, documents, and a deadline. I attached 3 PDFs. The deed. My name. Clear as daylight. The sale contract. Buyer. Price. Closing date. Done. And the 30-day notice. Typed on Russell's firm letterhead. Every box checked. Every line lawful. I pressed send at 8:47 p.m. The jazz was still playing. I could hear it faintly through the open windows 200 yards away. Someone laughed. A big, generous champagne laugh. The kind of laugh people do at weddings when they believe everything is perfect. I turned my key in the ignition. I drove home. I didn't check my phone. I didn't call Karen. I didn't call Patty. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. I walked into my apartment. I washed my face. I brushed my teeth. And I got into bed and slept. Deeply, completely, without dreaming. For the first time in months. Whatever was happening inside that house now, it was no longer my house. And it was no longer my problem. Karen called at 9 the next morning. I made coffee first. Then I answered. Sierra. Oh my God. Tell me. She told me. Around 9 p.m., 12 minutes after I sent the email, Dalton pulled his phone from his jacket during a toast from Nicole's uncle. He glanced at the screen. Then he went white. Not red. Not flushed. White. Like the blood left his face all at once. He excused himself. Found Gerald near the bar. Karen was close enough to hear Gerald say, What do you mean, sold? Then Dalton hissed something she couldn't catch, and Gerald's jaw tightened like a wire pulled taut. They moved to the hallway. The argument was quiet, controlled, the way men argue when they're surrounded by people they need to impress. But the body language screamed. Gerald jabbing his finger toward the floor. Dalton pressing his palm against the wall like he needed it to stay upright. Nicole noticed. Of course she did. It was her wedding. She walked over in her white dress and touched Dalton's arm. What's wrong? It's nothing. You look like you're going to be sick. She saw the phone in his hand. She took it. She read the email. The hallway got very quiet. Who is Sierra Mercer? Nicole said. Dalton's mouth opened. Nothing came out for 3 full seconds. Then, nobody. Nicole looked at the attachment. The deed. My name. The address they were standing in. The deed says Sierra Mercer. You told me this was your father's house. Dalton reached for the phone. Nicole pulled it back. Margaret Ashford appeared at the end of the hallway. silk dress, pearl earrings. A face that could read a room from 40 feet. "What's going on?" she said. Nicole turned the screen toward her mother. Margaret read. She looked at Dalton. She looked at Gerald. Then she picked up her clutch and walked toward the front door. Margaret didn't leave. She stopped at the front door, turned around, and walked back. That was worse. She stood in front of Dalton, in the foyer, where the string quartet had been playing 10 minutes earlier and a dozen guests were now pretending not to watch. "My daughter asked you a simple question," Margaret said. "Who is Sierra Mercer?" Dalton ran a hand through his hair. He tried a smile. It didn't land. It's complicated. She's a distant relative." Karen stepped forward. "She told me later she hadn't planned to. But she'd had 2 glasses of champagne and 17 years of watching me get erased, and something in her just broke." "She's his sister," Karen said. "His younger sister. And she's the one who bought this house." The room went silent. Not movie silent. Real silent. The kind where you can hear someone's shoe shift on the hardwood floor. Margaret looked at Gerald. "You have a daughter?" Gerald straightened his shoulders. Old habit. "This is family business. It became my family's business the moment my daughter married into your lies." That word, lies, landed like a slap. Gerald flinched, physically flinched. I'd never seen him flinch at anything in my life, and I wasn't even there, but Karen described it so precisely I could see it. Nicole stood between her mother and her husband, with a look Karen described as someone watching their house burn in real time. She turned to Dalton. "You told me you were an only child." "Nicole, let me explain. You told me your father bought this house." "It's not what it—" "What else did you lie about?" That question hung in the air. Not just about the house, not just about me, about everything. The entire foundation of their marriage, 1 day old, was cracking in front of 200 people. Dalton's face went through 3 stages. Karen counted them. First, denial. He pointed at Karen like she'd set off a fire alarm. "Karen doesn't know what she's talking about. She's Sierra's friend. She's biased." Karen didn't flinch. "I went to high school with both of you, Dalton. I was at your mother's funeral. I watched you eat dinner at Sierra's table for 16 years. Second, deflection. Dalton turned to the room, to the guests, to anyone who would listen, and spread his hands. "Sierra's always been like this. She's jealous. She's trying to ruin my wedding because she can't stand to see me happy." Margaret's voice cut through. "She didn't come to your wedding, Dalton. You didn't let her." Third, collapse. Dalton looked at Gerald, the way a child looks at a parent when the teacher catches them cheating. "Help me. Fix this." Gerald didn't move. His mouth was a thin line. His hands were in his pockets. For the first time in my life, in Karen's retelling, Gerald Mercer had absolutely nothing to say. No lecture, no redirect. No, this is family business. Just silence from a man who'd spent 63 years always having the last word. Nicole stood up from the chair someone had brought her. She smoothed the front of her dress. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She said, very quietly, "I need air." She walked outside. 2 of her bridesmaids followed, then her aunt, then her cousin. Then Margaret, who paused at the door and looked back at Gerald with an expression Karen described as the end of something. The DJ had stopped the music 20 minutes ago. Nobody asked him to restart it. Dalton stood alone in the foyer. Guests filed past him in small murmuring groups, collecting coats and purses. Nobody said goodbye. The last car left at 11:14 p.m. Gerald called me at 7 the next morning. Sunday. I was sitting at my kitchen table with coffee and the newspaper. I let it ring twice. Then I picked up. "What did you do?" His voice was low, shaking, not with grief, with rage. "I sold my house, Dad." "You ruined your brother's wedding." "No, I sold my property. That's my legal right. You need to fix this. Call the buyer, undo it." "It's done, Dad. It's not my house anymore." "You did this to hurt him." I set my coffee down. "No, I did this because he erased me. You both did. Silence. I could hear his breathing. Heavy. Uneven. The breathing of a man not used to being on the losing side of a conversation. Then he pulled out the one weapon he had left. Your mother would be ashamed of you. There it was. The trump card. The invocation of a dead woman who couldn't speak for herself, used by the man who broke every promise he ever made to her. My voice didn't shake. I want that on record. It didn't shake, and it didn't rise. Mom would be ashamed of what you did to her daughter. Nothing. 5 seconds. 10. Don't call me again, Sierra. I wasn't planning to, Dad. He hung up. I sat there. The coffee got cold. The newspaper stayed unread. The apartment was quiet in the way that only empty rooms are quiet, the kind of quiet that has weight. That was the last conversation I had with my father. Not the last time he tried to reach me. That came later, through other people, in softer tones. But the last time I picked up the phone for Gerald Mercer. Some doors close with a slam. This one closed with a click. And I was the one who turned the lock. Dalton called Monday afternoon. I almost didn't answer, but I realized I needed to hear what he'd say. Not for hope. Not anymore. For closure. You can't do this. His voice was raw, hoarse, the voice of a man who'd spent the night arguing or crying or both. This is my home, Sierra. It was never your home, Dalton. It was mine. I let you live there. I'll sue you. Go ahead. The deed is in my name. Always was. Silence. Then the shift came. I'd been waiting for it. The moment he switched from rage to charm. From weapon to tool. Sierra, come on. His tone dropped. Softer, almost warm. We're family. I know things haven't been perfect, but we can work this out. I'll talk to Nicole. We'll have you over for dinner. We can... You told your wife I don't exist. The sentence sat between us like a wall. I can explain. You don't need to. I understand perfectly. Sierra, please. Nicole's furious. Her mom won't return my calls. If you could just... Just what? Fix it for you? Like I've always done? He didn't answer. You have 30 days. That's the law. I suggest you use them. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore, Dalton. Another pause. Then quietly, and this was the part that almost got to me. I'm sorry. 2 words. 17 years late. Sorry for what? I asked. And he couldn't answer. He literally couldn't name the thing he was sorry for. Because naming it would mean admitting it happened, and admitting it happened would mean he wasn't the victim. Goodbye, Dalton. I hung up. My hand was steady. My chest hurt. But my hand was steady, and that mattered more. Russell called Wednesday morning to confirm what I already knew. Sale is fully recorded, title transferred, funds deposited into your account. A pause. It's done, Sierra. Clean and legal. Clean and legal. 3 words that somehow felt heavier than the $770,000 sitting in my bank account. Dalton hired a lawyer. Of course he did. Gerald probably paid for it. But it didn't matter. Russell told me later, secondhand, through a colleague, that Dalton's attorney reviewed the documents for about 15 minutes before delivering the verdict. You don't have a case. She owned the property. There was no lease, no rental agreement, no written arrangement of any kind. You have no legal standing. Dalton had lived in my house for 2 years, decorated it, hosted holidays in it, planned his wedding in it, told 200 people it was his, and legally, he had nothing. Not a single piece of paper with his name on it. Because he never thought to ask. Because it never occurred to him that the sister he'd erased might one day need proof that she existed. He had 30 days to move out. Him and Nicole. Newlyweds. Packing boxes. Nicole didn't file for divorce. I was glad about that. Not for Dalton's sake, but because I didn't want to be the grenade that destroyed a marriage. What I wanted was the truth on the table. What happened after that was between them. But Nicole had conditions. Karen heard it through the grapevine. couples therapy, full financial transparency, and a conversation with me. The last one was up to me. Nicole reached out through Karen. "Tell her I appreciate the offer," I said. "But not yet. Maybe not ever. That's my choice." It was the first time in my life I'd made a decision about my family without wondering if they'd approve. It felt like breathing after holding my breath for 17 years. Here's the thing about 200 witnesses. You can't put the truth back in the bottle. Within a week, the story had traveled through every circle Dalton and Gerald had spent years carefully curating: the country club, the neighborhood, Gerald's golf foursome, Nicole's sorority sisters, Dalton's co-workers. The version varied depending on who told it, but the bones were always the same. The groom's sister bought him a house, got erased from the family, and sold the house on the wedding day. Every retelling ended the same way: a low whistle or a slow shake of the head. Margaret Ashford told her book club. Karen confirmed this. Margaret's exact words: reportedly, "If he lied about having a sister, what else is he hiding?" That sentence traveled through the Ashford social circle like a brushfire. By the end of the month, Dalton had gone from great catch to the one Margaret's daughter should have vetted. Gerald took it hardest in public. His golf friends, men he'd known for decades, started asking questions he couldn't answer. One of them, a retired judge named Walter, said it to his face over lunch. "You froze out your own daughter, Jerry? The one who bought the boy his house?" Gerald left the restaurant before the check came. Karen heard that story third hand. But I believe it, because Gerald's entire identity was built on being a respectable man, a good father, a provider. And now the people he respected most were looking at him and seeing someone else. Dalton and Nicole moved into a 2-bedroom apartment across town. No yard, no string lights, no patio for a string quartet. The house on Maple Crest Drive, my house once, now belonged to the Brennan family. Young couple, 2 kids. They repainted the front door red. I drove by once. Just once. The red looked nice. Patty told me about it a week later. She'd asked Gerald to meet her at a coffee shop downtown. Public place, neutral ground. He came, which surprised her. He looked older, Patty said. Like 10 years had hit him in 10 days. She didn't ease into it. Patty never did. "Linda asked me to watch over Sierra. You know why? Because she knew you wouldn't." Gerald's hand tightened around his coffee cup. "Don't bring Linda into this. Linda is in this. She was always in this. She saw what you were doing before she died. She told me." "She told you what?" "That you'd already picked Dalton. That you'd already decided Sierra was second. She made me promise. Not just to watch over that girl, but to be ready. Because she knew." Gerald stared at the table. Patty said his jaw was working, the muscles moving like he was chewing words he couldn't swallow. "She didn't ask me to be Sierra's godmother because of tradition, Gerald. She asked me because she was afraid of what you'd do to that girl when she wasn't there to protect her." She paused. And she was right. Gerald stood up. He didn't push the chair back, he just rose, like a man leaving a church pew. He put a 20 on the table. He walked out without turning around. Patty called me that evening. Her voice was steady but soft, the way it gets when she's been carrying something heavy and finally sets it down. "I said what your mother would have said. The rest is up to him." I held the phone against my ear for a long time after we hung up. My mother had been dead for 17 years, and she was still protecting me. Some people leave instructions. My mother left a shield. People always ask about the money. $770,000 is a lot of money. They want to know if I kept it, if I spent it, if it felt like winning. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like a refund. I paid off my remaining student loans, the ones I'd taken out because my college fund was drained before I ever saw a dollar of it. That felt right. That felt like closing a circle. Then I sat down with Patty and Russell and we built something. The Linda Mercer Foundation, a scholarship fund for young women who lost their mothers early and were trying to make it on their own. Not just college tuition, but licensing fees, certification costs, first-month rent deposits. The practical things that nobody thinks about when they say, just work hard and you'll be fine. I didn't name it after myself. I named it after the woman who saw 17 years into the future and made a plan to protect a daughter she wouldn't live to raise. Patty handled the legal setup. Russell did the paperwork. I funded it with a third of the sale proceeds. Not a press release, not a gala, not a social media post. Just a form, a bank account, and a mission. With what remained, I bought a house. A small one, 2 bedrooms, a porch, a kitchen window that faces east so the morning light comes in while I drink my coffee. The deed is in my name. Only my name. The day I moved in, I unpacked one box before anything else. Inside was the framed photo of my mother. The one where she's 31, holding me, smiling. I set it on the shelf by the front door. So she's the first thing I see when I come home. This time, I said to the empty room, I bought a house for myself. 3 months passed. Dalton and Nicole stayed together. I heard through Karen that Nicole had laid down her terms. Therapy every week, no exceptions, full financial disclosure, every account, every debt, every dollar. And an honest conversation about his family. All of it, no edits. Dalton agreed. Whether he followed through or not wasn't my concern anymore. He sent me a letter, handwritten, which surprised me. 2 pages. The handwriting was messy. The kind that comes from writing fast because you're afraid you'll lose your nerve. He didn't apologize. Not exactly. He said, I know I messed up. He said, I don't know how to fix this. He said, Nicole keeps asking about you, and I don't know what to tell her because I don't know you anymore, and that's my fault. I read it twice. I folded it and put it in the drawer of my nightstand. I didn't write back. Not because I hated him, because I wasn't ready. And for the first time in my life, I let not ready be a complete sentence. Gerald didn't reach out. No letter, no call, no message through anyone. Just silence. The same silence he'd given me my whole life. Except now it was the only language he had left. I didn't wait for him. I was done waiting. Thursday nights became my anchor. Patty and I had dinner every week. Her place. My place. The Italian spot on Elm where the owner knew our orders by heart. Sometimes Karen joined. Sometimes Russell came with his wife. We'd eat. We'd talk. We'd laugh about things that had nothing to do with Dalton or Gerald or the house on Maple Crest. This was my family now. Not the one I was born into. The one I built. And no one at that table ever made me prove I deserved a chair. I'm standing on my porch as I finish telling you this. It's a small porch. Just big enough for 2 chairs and a planter I keep forgetting to water. The house behind me is nothing special. But the deed is in my name, the mortgage is paid, and nobody inside it has ever told me I don't belong. I used to think family meant sacrifice, that if I gave enough money, enough patience, enough silence, the people who shared my blood would eventually see me. I was wrong. Not about the giving, about who I was giving to. I didn't sell that house out of anger. I sold it because I finally believed that I was worth more than a guest room in my own life, that I deserved a seat at the table. Not because I bought the table, but because I'm a person who matters. If you're in a family where you're always the one giving and never the one receiving, where your love is treated like a subscription they can cancel whenever it's inconvenient, you don't need their permission to stop. You don't need them to agree that you've been hurt before you're allowed to heal. A boundary isn't a wall, it's a door, and you decide who walks through it. I don't know what happens next with Dalton. Maybe one day I'll be ready to sit across from him and listen. Maybe I won't. That's allowed. I don't know about Gerald. I've stopped trying to predict a man who never learned how to see me. Maybe Patty's words planted something. Maybe they didn't. That's his work to do, not mine. What I know is this. I'm 31. I have a home that's mine. I have people who chose me. I have my mother's name on a foundation that helps girls who remind me of who I was at 18. Alone. Broke. But not broken. If you've ever had to choose between keeping a family and keeping yourself, I want to hear your story. Tell me in the comments. I'll be reading. Thank you for staying with me through this whole story. If it touched something in you, hit that like button and subscribe. Not because I asked, but because maybe someone you know needs to hear this too. Share it with them. And if you're ready for another story about standing your ground and finding where you truly belong, there's a link in the description waiting for you. I'll meet you there. Take care of yourselves. And remember, you were never too much. They were just offering too little. I'll see you in the next one.